This is the story of 5 mighty developing nations. Together, they form 42% of the world population, contribute 16% of world trade. And when they teamed up, it was predicted to be a game changer. But so far, nothing significant has happened, and the world has been waiting for 15 years.
मुझे विश्वास है कि आज की बैठक ब्रिक्स को भविष्य में और उपयोगी बनाने के लिए उपयुक्त दिशा देगी.
That was Indian Prime Minister giving his presidential remarks at the BRICS annual summit last month. BRICS, the acronym coined for the association of Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa, envisaged as an alternative to the Western world order, to get rid of dollar dominance, to reform the World Bank and IMF, to restructure the UN Security Council. And for all these ambitious goals, better cooperation among themselves. It all started in 2006, and many years have passed by, some very eventful, some not. Then the pandemic struck. Shortage of COVID vaccines was the next crisis. India and South Africa have been campaigning for a waiver on intellectual property rights of COVID vaccines. A 3-year waiver so that nations facing acute shortage of vaccines could produce their own. So when the BRICS leaders came together, expectations were high. Well, we don't know what happened inside the closed-door discussions. But nothing came out other than a vague statement.
We note the ongoing discussions in the WTO on a COVID-19 vaccine intellectual property rights waiver and the use of flexibilities of the TRIPS agreement and the Doha Declaration.
Simply put, BRICS leaders are saying that we know millions are waiting for vaccines, but we cannot do anything. But to be fair, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa did try his best. He reasoned,
we need to ensure equal access to COVID-19 vaccines, because that is the only way in which we can collectively respond to this pandemic that engulfs the world.
Narendra Modi was supportive, but China, Russia and Brazil had other plans. And the summit discussed post-COVID strategies in detail. Yes, what to do after the pandemic is over. A cruel joke on the people. COVID vaccine, the most sought after product of the decade. Pharma giant Pfizer's profit from vaccine business alone is between 60 and 80%. And that club also includes Russia's Sputnik and China's Sinovac. The bottom line is, China and Russia will not help the developing world if their profits are at stake. Even if that means death of millions. An organization built to counter Western hegemony and imperialism seems to have lost its way, and most of the BRICS countries have turned either authoritarian or electoral autocracy in the past few years. Forget cooperation for greater goals. BRICS leaders cannot even unite in the face of a pandemic, and the vaccine apartheid exposed it perfectly. The other thing on the agenda was Afghanistan. Recaptured by the Taliban, Afghanistan is one country where China, Russia and India have interests and ambitions, but they are conflicting ones also. Hence, yet another vague joint statement from BRICS.
We underscore the priority of fighting terrorism, including preventing attempts by terrorist organizations to use Afghan territory as terrorist sanctuary and to carry out attacks against other countries, as well as drug trade within Afghanistan.
Is this all about BRICS, you may wonder? Well, no. The most tangible contribution is the BRICS Bank, known as New Development Bank. The bank was instituted to aid infrastructure development, and they did well. Approved loans of $29 billion in 80 projects. Disbursed amount is $10.69 billion. Also, the bank has a contingency reserve agreement to help members in emergency. If you look into the bank's documents, you will see the key word everywhere is sustainability. But it is not environmental or social sustainability. It is only and only financial sustainability. Millions of people in BRICS nations need a safe place to sleep, clean water to drink. But such projects become unsustainable for want of immediate returns. Also because such projects need subsidized loans. But New Development Bank do not subsidize. They operate to garner profits to its stakeholders, to improve the fancy AA+ rating given by Western credit agencies. So, mega projects that can ensure returns will only pass the test. Other projects can rust in paper or redeem themselves by charging their beneficiaries heavily. This is the same playbook the World Bank and IMF play by. Big loans are always available. Bigger the projects, the better. The construction contracts always go to big companies and big profit to the bank when loans are repaid with interest. Eventually, beneficiaries, the people, will be squeezed of their money as road tax or fuel cess or electricity charges or in some other name. They can also be displaced for the sake of project itself. Hence, in many places around the globe, people are resisting such big projects.
If they are guilty, they must pay.
And the irony is, every BRICS annual summit declaration will have a mention of how unjust World Bank and IMF are. Yes, the governments and its leaders have failed so far. But that doesn't mean the idea of BRICS is lost. Because this is not the story of 5 governments alone. It's also the coming together of 42% of the world population, the people. We call it People's BRICS.
From your organization or when as a person from our perspective.
Every year, when the leaders meet and deliver rhetoric speeches, people's movements from these 5 nations also come together. They discuss, they debate their fate and future. Stand in solidarity with each other. Think of action plans for the future. Make declarations for the governments to take. This year too, we shall meet from October 18th, virtually. Be there.